Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
President Warner and members of the board. My name is Terrence Howard. I am one of the light rail transportation shop stewards at Ruby Junction. I am here to talk to you today about the investigation and analysis that was done on the rail transportation rule violations. Let me ask you, what was the purpose of the report? In my personal and professional life, when someone writes a report about me that has a list of challenges it thinks I face, I expect to be talked to about it before it is made public, to get my insight and thoughts. It brings me to this quote that we used to say when I worked at Portland Transportation: nothing about me without me. You didn't do that with us. That makes me question the report. That makes me question what this report is about. It makes me think that this report is more to shame and embarrass operators and not to help and improve. If something isn't okay in your personal life, why did Trimet think it would be okay in our workplace? With respect to Mr. Flanagan, I've had some time to look at his numbers and analysis, and I disagree with his conclusions. If you allow me just a few minutes, I can explain why. When I read the phrase on page 2, operating rules and non-compliance has become accepted as normal, I am offended. There is no operator that I know of that sees rules violations as normal. We see broken trains as normal. We see signal glitches as normal, especially in a few key locations. No operator sees any rule violation as normal or insignificant. That would suggest that we don't care about our job or our passengers. That would mean we don't take the utmost pride in our work. Let me break down why the numbers Mr. Flanagan used are insufficient. 1,181 rule violations entered in the asset system for the 2015-2016 year. It stated that it was up from the 2010 year. That's not the whole story. To get to the whole story, you have to take out the incidents that involved mechanical failure, technical failure, and account for the learning curve of new operators and problems of a new alignment. I think that if you weighted the numbers so you were comparing apples to apples, the numbers would tell a very different story. It would tell of one where we had not lost focus, as you stated, but that we have continued to refine our focus. You also compared us to some of the other transit agencies in the region. You need to account for the difference in the number of rule violations per mile operators can get on a per mile basis. At max, the number is 10 to 15. We actually called Utah. They only have 1 to 2 possible rule violations per mile. We called Los Angeles, same story. So unless you are comparing apples to apples, it is meaningless. That is why this report has more questions for me than answers.
I want to make a comment about his statement because I happened to listen to Kelsey's presentation on what he's talking about, that report that was commissioned by some guy who allegedly worked for NTS and NTSB, who came back with this scathing report. And those of you who follow anything that I'm doing know that I spent a lot of time listening to operations and the scanner. And what that report was saying didn't jive with what I hear. And I said that on the video. It didn't jive with what I hear when I'm listening to the scanner. So the report made this idea come through that somehow these operators and dispatch controllers are doing something wrong. Well, you know, I'm actually culling through the calls looking for fuck-ups. That's what I'm doing. I'm the most interested in looking for the stuff that's out of the ordinary. And I didn't see anything, I haven't heard anything that would support the conclusion of that report. And I happen to agree with this operator on the motive for this. It's very questionable, and given McFarland's anti-union history and his overpaid staff, they're basically McFarland lapdogs, and I think it's an anti-union move more than a factual report. I agree with this operator. I think this is another dirty trick.